Welcome back to another SAP Code Talk. I'm here with Timo John, where he speaks about his experience with ABAP and a little bit more into clean ABAP and just ABAP education and what he does within the SAP community. Timo, would you mind sharing a little bit about yourself?
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Timo John. I'm an SAP developer since more than 20 years now. I directly started after university, being sometimes a consultant on a real consulting company, but also an in-house consultant here in Hamburg. I'm basically focused on logistics. Currently, I'm working in the GTM environment, which is global trade of SAP. Nearly nobody knows about that, but here we are really specialized with our company, and at the company called Adventas, I'm the lead developer at the moment for the development team for doing all the custom developments.
Awesome. Now, Timo, you're well known in the SAP developer space for your deep knowledge in ABAP, RAP, and clean ABAP. Now, can you share how your technical journey started and what drew you into, into SAP development? I know you spoke a little bit about it, but can you share a little bit more?
Yeah, my first SAP developments were already during the university. I studied at the Nord Academy here in Germany, and there we had a lecture on ABAP or on SAP development. And there I started to get together with my good friend Heiko Behrens. He's a well-known development expert in another Java environment. He does lots of great things over there. And he put me into development in general. He was already developing software and know about design patterns and these kind of things. So that's what I learned already a little bit during the studies. And when I finished and graduated, I was part of ZIMT Consulting, and there I wrote my diploma thesis. And this was on the XI server in Java, but this already sucked me into the SAP environment. And I was a consultant at Philips doing enterprise buyer and starting developments in ABAP early 2005 and so on. And then one of the persons who are really well known in the community, Thomas Young, was actually one of these guys who really brought me into the community, because on this time he had these enterprise geeks investment video stuff, and that was really great. I saw these videos. I had a really old mobile where I could hardly see the screens, but I downloaded the videos, was sitting in the train driving to work and watching Thomas Young explaining ABAP objects and all these new things that you could do there. And there was also some PDF documents like doing in the new ABAP exception concept. Oh, I don't know the authors right now, but these documents and information drove me really to do something more in the community, to invest in the SCN or any other names that we had after that, writing some blog posts, reading blog posts. And then these SAP Insight tracks came up. And that was really a great thing to see, hey, there are other guys out there who are really interested in doing things right and nice, and they invest their weekend time. And we had a great time together, not only talking about ABAP, but also getting to know each other and building some kind of a network. And that was really the idea. Oh, great. I need these persons. I would like to help other persons. And so also some, yeah, let's call it really friendships. And so it also came out of this ABAP community. And I would not miss that anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful how the community has brought you guys together. And yeah, obviously those videos and blog posts have made things a little bit easier for others to be able to read more into these. So I guess my next question would be like, when you're doing ABAP unit testing for real projects, what's your practical, I would say, minimum viability testing setup? And what do you test first? What do you usually test first?
Often this starts with a real exploring. I use the unit test framework for exploring a new bar piece or whatever piece of code, writing a small unit test to try something out. I don't use any more reports or these kind of things. There, I think unit tests are pretty helpful, and to do tests for all these simple changes of business code. When you do some mappings based on rules, some adding and deleting from internal tables and so on, that's pretty simple to test. Where it comes to really more challenging tests, and that's what really the music plays, is always, yeah, how do we post these data in SAP standard, using standard bar piece and so on. And there the really music plays, and that's really difficult to test because you have so many different options with these bar piece, so many tables and fields to fill. That's really difficult. Now people could argue, yeah, you can mock these bar piece and simulate, but that doesn't really help. Most of the business logic is done within the bar piece, and you need to have the documents right on the database. You also need to test somehow the and enhancements that are in there, or user exits and all these kind of things. That's why you really have to execute this, and that really makes it challenging because we in SAP do not have the possibility to reset some documents. If you talk to Java guys and they say, yeah, you can reset the database. No one resets the database in SAP. You always have to create new documents or somehow. Then you come up with these mocking techniques, but that's nothing what you really do at the beginning of your tests. But you really have to focus on the tests and involve your test suite to grow the tests with the business requirements. And that's, I think, one of the really difficult things. The business asks for new features that have to be delivered fast always, and you have to maintain your tests in the same speed. And then you tend to do these messy stuff, and you say, no, I do not have the time for tests and cannot keep up the tests. And then you are increasing your technical depths. It's exactly that what Clean ABAP and other documents describe what you should not do. But in practice, it sometimes looks completely different. Where unit tests are also pretty awesome are for testing messages. Normally, if you get a specification, nobody cares or write down which error cases do you have and which messages should come out there and how they should be written. And here for unit tests, explicitly for testing error cases is also really helpful that you say, okay, these are the messages that we defined. And then later on, you find out that there are even some more error cases. Yeah, we did not define that, so you cannot expect a real nice error message, unfortunately. And here comes again the challenging part with the BAPI. Nowhere is explained which error messages and return codes or a combination of it can return out of these BAPIs. That's the technical knowledge that we build up, or each and every consultant builds up by itself or by himself during his work of life. Yeah. So minimal is difficult to say with unit tests.
You never know, right? Now you shared your thoughts on teaching ABAP, right? And how it's makes it appealing to the next generation of developers, both young and older, those who are actually trying to learn ABAP. Now, I would say, what do you think are the biggest challenges in modern ABAP education as of now, especially as we're coming into this new year?
Yeah, that's pretty difficult. We already discussed that with some colleagues and other persons, how to make ABAP nice and flashy. At the moment, ABAP is not really flashy. You have to be connected to a server. Everyone's working on the same document. You have these lock mechanisms, and there other languages have really advantages. They have more fancy options. You have this Git integration by default. Nobody is discussing about that. And here I have to admit that CAP definitely has some advantages. Personally, I've never done anything with CAP, but I talked to a young developer and he explained to me what are the benefits of the real development, not what you can do with A or B, but for him as a developer, he just opens his laptop and within seconds he's ready to do coding and to resume where he left his work. And with ABAP, you always disconnect from the server, then all your sessions are lost. You have to build up the server connection again. You need to have a VPN to your clients, and that's all not really flashy. That is, yeah, ABAP definitely matters most. If you look out down there to the business, everyone runs ABAP. So, and what you write in ABAP, this will definitely run for years. So you definitely make an impact with that what you do, but it's not nice how to do this. And here we really have to do some changes within the ABAP development team. So the team that is really developing the ABAP language, how can we improve there to make, for instance, Git way more usable. At the moment with ABAP Git, it is usable in the backend environment, but it's not that great. And if you talk to real customers out there, and they say, what do we ABAP Git need ABAP Git for? We have transports, and transport have always been fine, and what's wrong with that? And yeah, then you tell them, yeah, you can make complete code comparison. Yeah, you can also do this with transports. And it's really hard arguing to bring those guys out of their comfort zone to try something new, which makes it more flashy for the new upcoming developers because they come from university with nice cloud-oriented languages with lots of fancy features, which we cannot really say into ABAP. And all these other old-fashioned things in ABAP where you can write quick and dirty code. Yeah, that's not something which we would write to would like on our commercial flag. That you can do dirty programming like PHP style backend development, so database selects and UI and everything within one class. You can do this with ABAP, but it's not a real advantage. This will lead to really ugly code. So it's a really difficult topic how to make ABAP great again. And I think we have here a chance that you can have this. Your code really matters. So what you do will be executed in years, and you definitely have the chance to do a really broad education for yourself. So you can learn front-end development. I will call it mid backend or let's say business code development, and then also SAP code, development, consulting, structuring. So how does the SAP code work with the bodies and barpies and all in there? That's for me personally, this is more or less the third layer. And through all these layers, we have multiple languages. It's not only ABAP anymore. We have CDS language, we have AMDP language, we have all these Fiori annotations. So there are at least 4 or 5 languages within the ABAP or SAP development consultant area. And that's also one of the challenges that we face at the moment. So, but challenges are also chances. So if you talk to a new guy and say, hey, you would like to have an enormous amount of things that you would like to learn, then SAP here is the way to go because you have so many complex things where you can dig into. And that's something like a real challenge to get to know on all these areas as fast as possible. Yeah, so learning is the real challenge.
Yeah, it's definitely for those who just now getting into that space, it could be a little bit difficult. But I know you mentioned earlier that how the community was such a huge thing for you, and you're still connected with the people that you have met through the community. So I guess I would say, what impact do community events like Stamish and AbapConf, Code Jams, and all the stuff that are put together, how has that have been, I guess, what impact does that do on having you learning and uplifting your skills?
From each and every event where I participated, I at least took one really great idea back home and said, here I can improve on this and that. So
Yep.
I was never disappointed by one of these events, no matter how big, whether was a big TechEd in Barcelona or a really small SAP Stammtisch or meetup here in Hamburg, which lasts only a couple of hours. You definitely have to be patient. Sometimes it's great and sometimes it's only okay, but it was always worth it to invest the time. And that's also one of the things I would like to recommend. So for everyone, go to these events, participate, bring your own ideas, ask questions. Also asking questions really helps you to get into contact, to discuss with people. Yeah, and we have these different formats being driven by the community, and I really love that to be there to organize these events, which take up some time, of course, but it's really important. It's not that you learn new things on these events, but you get back the ideas and write them down in your notepad, and later on you contact one of these guys. Hey, you have had this nice speech about ABAP unit testing and data driven. Can you explain me, or they share the slides? So you always go back with some homework, and with this homework build up your skills later on. Yeah.
Absolutely. Now you have obviously went to a few of these. Looking back, what SAP community interaction or moments do you think would stood out the most to you?
I think the most important was definitely the on-site events. So being there, talking to the people, meeting great people, seeing how they are doing their speeches. Um, yeah, being surprised how great also young persons can do. We had a team of 2 persons last year as at ABAP Conf. Once I saw the title, I thought, okay, something for a commercial for their own company product. But no, it was an amazing talk. We're doing ABAP documentation with AI, and it was really impressive. And for me, another interesting story about the community itself. Years back, I was searching for an RSS feed component. Can you do RSS feeds somehow with SAP? And a guy from Hamburg called Peter Langner wrote once a blog post because he wrote such a component and said, great, I can use this component and build something else for the solution manager. I needed something there. And then I wrote a supply, hey, thanks, Peter, an amazing component. Thanks that I could use this. Thanks for sharing. And that was the starting point where I get to know Peter. And now since nearly 5 years, I'm working in his company. So we met each other via the internet, via SAP community. We did a big project here together for years in Hamburg, and it took some time until I joined then Peter's Adventas consulting company. But that's also a thing that you should keep in mind, that also your business network might help yourself to get some other interesting jobs in other areas. So the on-site events is really the most important for getting to know a person, but also the amount of documentation, information is really growing. We have a big community at LinkedIn where, I think more than the document links are posted. People are starting to explain, and they see, more details are here on the SCN or my personal blog. So definitely get an account there. Start following the persons out, and that will really help. Unfortunately, we also see that the investments of SAP and other guys on YouTube only get really little attention what I see. So I hope that the new generation of ABAP developers that are coming up are more interested in these socializing and self-education via internet and online offline events.
No, I really like that, knowing that, like, especially the history between you and Peter. I think it's beautiful how community brought you into having so much opportunities now. And just like you guys connecting just through the community. And as like what you said, with new developers or anyone into a new SAP space, being at these on-site events, getting these connections are the really helpful in trying to, build that community that is ultimately going to help you out eventually, whether that's with friendship or career wise. I really enjoyed hearing that story because it came out so positive at the end. So I guess now I would ask, now you contributed insights, not just technically, but also how developers grow their career now. What advice would you give to SAP developers who are aiming to become community contributors themselves?
Yeah, and in the question you said SAP developers, I think there's no need to call yourself an SAP developer. It's also fine to call yourself a trainee or somebody who's interested, but just go out there, search for these events at the various sources at sap.com. There is an event website. You can find them on the other social networks. Just go there, meet the people, talk to the organizers, maybe also ask them, how can I be of help for the next year and so on. And also bring in your own ideas. Say, yeah, I would like to make a speech here. Just give it a try. It's always a really positive audience. No one is judged there, and only if you try, you can get better. Don't hesitate to say, these other guys are so well skilled. It doesn't matter with which skills set you come. Also, if you are a trainee and you just have 1 or half a year of experience with ABAP, then go there and take a speech and say, hey, these are my challenges, and I learned this and that here. The next guys will say, hey, there was a great speech of a trainee. For our new trainees, they can talk to him or share the knowledge, or just if you just avoid one pitfall, then you definitely have an improvement there. And of course, also participating brings you some advantage for your self-education, speaking sometimes other languages, or trying to contact people. There's also skills for you that are important for young persons. Or also try to host your own event. There is no need to host an own tech. Just say, hey, within my city, there is no Stammtisch. I don't know the English translation for this. There is no meetup. Then I'll organize my own, and don't be patient with that. It might happen that you sit there just with two or three guys, and it's pretty personal. And then you also start talking about dogs and your family and so on. This is fine. And then next time you are 10 to 15 people. We also have the Stammtisch here in Hamburg, and it's really difficult. Sometimes there are lots of people, and sometimes we are only with three guys because, yeah, okay, we scheduled it during the summer holidays. Difficult to find a better appointment. So just get doing something. You will only improve if you do. Do not hesitate. That would be my main advice.
I like that, not hesitating. Now, what keeps you excited about ABAP today, and what would you still like to see improve, whether that's business or the IDs? What would be something that you would like to see improve and gets you excited about what's going on now with ABAP?
Yeah, as the real major step where other ABAP jumped jumped somewhere was of course ADT. I think more than 12 years ago. That was one of the big steps, and you still see that less than 50% are using this. But that was for me the one of the really excitements to say, okay, now ABAP is really modern. But what I like is the new features that come out more and more often. That was when the beginning of my ABAP career, 2005 to 10, or maybe I also didn't get to know these new features, but they really drive me to be really patient about all the ABAP stuff and RAP and CDS and what is all coming there. And what is also really an interesting point is to work in this really professional environment. When you're working now with these SAP servers for more than 10 to 15 years, you always find new features what the SAP server does on its own, like logging and tracing and what is all built in there. And there are so many things to explore, but the server is still doing its great job. So it's a really professional, great environment where you work and where you see that lots of things can be improved, definitely, but there are hundreds and thousands of things that are really working great. And if you build your own Java application from scratch, you really don't have this. And all this is built in within an SAP server. It's difficult to use, but that also is something like fascinating. What kind of a big world is there to explore? And after 20 years, I can still say that there are lots of things to explore. So learning is really important, and learning also drives me. But here for learning, I also have the good support from Adventas, which is a company that really supports learners and learning. And we are really focusing on that each and every consultant will make his own way and start self-educating. That's pretty important. And of course, no talk about the magic keyword KI, of course, or artificial intelligence. We have really interesting times at the moment where artificial intelligence is coming from each and every side, and that's also driving me quite a lot at the moment. How can we benefit from any code agents, and what kind of things will really help us in the future? So it's pretty interesting, and it will stay interesting through the next years.
Yes, I believe so. It's just evolving. Now, okay, what challenges now do SAP developers face today that customers often underestimate or you would, I guess, would ignore?
Yeah, I think the most important part is that the SAP system, or not system, the SAP development world improved quite a lot with RAP, which is a good step forward, going into cloud development and more browser-based. But what people intend to forget, or people from the management, from my perspective, intend to forget, that it's way more complex. The years ago, we had doing our ABAP coding within the ABAP SAP GUI and doing some ALV displays. And now they say, okay, you need to do a RAP, so you have to have some Fiori, you have to have some CDS and some new ABAP documents. And nearly no one received the time to educate himself. And there were lots of things to work. And this is not done within 1 or 2 weeks. It's a month journey. And the people need to have these times or need to find their own times to upskill. And what we see, or what I see currently, is that lots of development are stuck in the late 90s from their skill set and do some coding in the new world, but it still looks like the 90s. Good example is doing real ABAP object-oriented coding. You see people are creating classes and using methods, but this is not object-oriented. You really need to have an object that's doing its own tasks. And there is still a very little, unfortunately, a very little amount of programmers who are really doing this way. So you still see classical programming patterns all over the world. So the education, I think, is one of the biggest challenges. And here, I think KI can help us. But unfortunately, it also creates coding that is running. And then the business always say, hey, where's the challenge? The code is running. So also a very little skilled developer is, with the help of AI, is in the position to create some running coding, and the business says, test it well, okay. And then so the amount of bad code will definitely rise. And Karl Kessler wrote a blog post on LinkedIn on exactly that challenge, and I fully support that we will get to new systems with lots of generated coding in the next years, and which are really difficult to maintain later on, adding more features and so on. Yeah, and another challenge that what I see is that the examples from SAP and also from other persons are often pretty simple. Yeah, when you look at the RAP tutorials, for instance, then they come up with a bookshop or with of course, the flight reference. But I like the flight reference because it's always the same since more than 20 years. But these bookshop examples and other things where you say, yeah, you can manage your travels here. Who is running an SAP server to manage a small bookshop or booking his travel? The guys are running SAP because they have a great module for finance, for logistics, for these kind of things. So why are these examples so simple and not explaining a simple, realistic scenario what is used out there to create a material document, to post an invoice? We don't have any examples here. Of course, it's difficult with the master data setup and so on. But therefore, we have these pre-configured systems. You can say, hey, in a pre-configured system, this will run like this. But nevertheless, if it's not executable on your own system, you would see how the integration of real SAP documents or real SAP coding is done, and not these plain, pretty simple, like calculator-based apps. So from the examples point of view, there is also some room for improvement from what I think.
I definitely agree. ADT was a major step forward. So like, what key features do you still feel are missing, and what would make the biggest difference in that?
Nice shout out to the ADT team, of course. One of the features that I'm really missing, and when I use SAP GUI, is the layer-aware debugging, where you can say, hey, ABAP debugger, please stop if you start or if you enter Z coding. That's what we definitely need when you debug user exits and enhancements and these kind of things. Then the SAP code is running, and here now the interesting the Z part comes on, and I don't see any option in ADT down there. Another thing, but what I fortunately can use since a couple of weeks now is the message breakpoints, because my major client has upgraded his system to a 2003 version. And now I can use the message breakpoints. But I think this is a really important thing that we should have a downgrade that you can install. To be honest, maybe there is one and I've never used this. Something else more simple. When you do programming, you often use constants and other things. And I think within RDT, it's not possible to search for an ABAP constant defined in any class with a specific value like ZP01 or something. In SE84, SE84, this is definitely possible. They can say, hey, I need an attribute with this and that, and then the compiler finds that for you. That's pretty helpful. So this is still missing in RDT. What I'm missing here is that the IDE makes enhancements for everyone. Of course, due to political reasons, they're definitely pushed to have this cloud integration and all these fancy stuff, but this is not really relevant for your really daily work. As any generators for a RAP application. Yeah, you do it at maximum once a week, but searching for variables, I do this way more often than once a week. And another pretty important, but it's some kind of a wish feature, is something like a code review tool. I already proposed that years ago, that we would have one layer above the ABAP code, like a small plastic layer. We can say, okay, here I can write annotations that are not transported with the code, but they are on top, and I can give advices to other persons. Now people would start arguing, hey, you have ABAP Git for this. You can post it in the Git environment. Yeah, of course I can, if the client allows me, or my contractor. And they often say, hey, why do you just need a Git server and user management? No, just for the code review, you can do this somehow different. So we already talked about that the innovation at customers out there are pretty stuck. And here I would like to have some more push or some more support from the SAP IDEs to give us even more features that we can use and to give the information to the client that they would really benefit for us, and that it's not only for the developers as a new playground. Yeah,
And
I think that's it.
as the years go, I guess as the years come, I hope that we do see some of those changes being suggested, as it will be really helpful for the new and I guess new and older developers that have been using the ADTs. So I think the questions that you answered have been amazing, and I'm so happy that you were able to come and join us for our SAP talk. I'm sure this will be really helpful for the audience, and I'm sure they will definitely gain some insight from this. Um, so, is there any last things that you would like to say before we close off today?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks. It was an honor for myself to be part of this brilliant format. I really like it a lot, that other people share their thoughts here on YouTube and all the other platforms. And my advice is definitely to go out there and participate in the SAP community events. Give them their support, like ABAP conference and all the other things, and host your own events that we started.
Yeah.
We had a small break in the Corona. Of course, everything went down, and now we need to build up the on-site community again and again. So please, everyone, help us to build a great SAP community out there.
And thank you, Timo, for being a part of this. And like every one of the hosts that we have for the SAP Code Talk, we will link their information below so you can be able to connect with them all through the SAP community, LinkedIn, etc. Thank you again, and see you guys on the next SAP Code Talk.
Bye bye. See you.